In this chapter, we'll talk about strings and how to manipulate them. We will go over some basic formatting options, and in the end, we'll demonstrate one useful method that works with strings. So we're going to start off with basic string manipulation. If you remember in the previous tutorials, we have demonstrated how to define strings and how to assign a string to a variable. It looked like this. So we're going to have a variable called string. Here we go. String, CCleaners. So close that. Okay, so string equals, and we use single quotes, I am a string in Python. Another way of defining a string is doing the following. So you can also use double quotes in Python. So in Python, there is no difference here. So we're just going to copy this. And there we go. So build that, there's no problem. So they basically, oh, I should change the name of this. We're gonna call this string1. Okay, so with strings in Python, you can access a specific character in a string in the following way. So we're gonna say string, and then we're gonna use the square brackets after the name of the variable, which is a string, and then type in an index, which is or integer. This is called indexing. It starts from 0 and goes up to the length of the entire string minus 1. So to access a character, just specify the position, or this index right here, in the string. To get the length of the string, we use the function len. So we use the len function. For example, we're going to say the following. So len, my length is 15. So, and we can also pass a string variable to this function as follows. So instead of actually directly passing a string, we can just use this variable. So let's say string, this variable right here. Python also supports another way of indexing, which is not standard. For example, we have string in square brackets minus 1. The result of this character is n, which this is called inverse indexing, and it returns the last character of the string. So let's see, let's add on a 1, here we go. So let's actually print that out and see what happens. So print, remember our print function from before, and b, whoops, that's not, there we go, and we got n. And as you can see here, the last letter is n. So for example, so by using this, if you wanted to get the second to last character, you would put minus 2 instead of minus 1. So, and then we got 1, and we got the O from Python right here. And you can do minus 3 and so on. So moving on, if you tried to assign a character using indexing, you would get an error. For example, let's do the following. So let's say string index minus 1, so the last character is going to be, we want it to be equal to x. And let's build that. So what we get here is a type error. str object does not support item assignment. These types are called immutable types. Later on, we'll demonstrate how to assign a specific character if there is a need for it. So anyway, moving on. Another interesting thing about Python is the so-called string cutting. For example, we're going to have, so let's erase this. We can erase all this now. We're going to have string, we're going to have string in square brackets 5:11. This will return string, that is, it will return all characters that start with the 5th index and end with the 11th index. So let's do that. So it's going to return this right here, this part of the whole string. So if we print that out, we're just going to print this out. We get, oh, why is it a string? Oh, because I put a string. So if we say without the a, we'll get string. There we go. If we don't specify the value of the first index, it is considered that it starts from the beginning and then just goes to the second index. and goes to the end of this index. So let's do that right now. So let's do blank colon 5. And then we get IM, so we get everything up to the 5th index. That includes the space. So, and if we do this for, let's say 15 at the beginning, and the other side is blank. So we're going to get Python. So we start at the 15th index, my bad, and then go all the way to the end. So we have something called concatenation in strings. It's basically adding strings, putting strings together. And so we can do this, it's pretty simple in Python. So what we do, we're just going to say, so let's make a new variable called string2, and we're going to concatenate into this. So we're going to say, we're going to add these two separate strings together. So we're going to say con, and then we're going to use a plus operand in strings. This is concatenation, and we're going to say concatenation. All right. And then when we print that, keep in mind there's no space here. If you want to add a space through this operand, you have to do it manually. So you have to do con space, add a space, but anyway, you'll get the idea. So let's do statement. As you can see, it gets added together. We also have something called repetition, where you can actually repeat a string multiple times. So let's do it with this example now. We're going to use 2, then we're going to use a star operand with the string. What this does, it repeats this string right here this number of times. So it's going to repeat concatenation, actually, because it's kind of like operand, so it repeated con twice and then concatenation once. So there you go. You can use pretty much like math operands, you can use these too. So this using a 2 star repeats the string after the star a certain number of times based on this number. Anyway, keep in mind that you cannot use this syntax when concatenating. Wait, no, sorry. So anyway, so I should move back to concatenation for a sec. So you can concatenate a string without this plus right here. But you have to keep in mind that you cannot use the syntax when concatenating a string variable. So if we did this, we get the same result. So we concatenated without the operand. But if we say have con, and we call this con, well, it should be 1n, and then we have, let's just call it cat. We're going to call it concatenate. We cannot have them concatenated without an operand if we're doing it over the variables. So if we write con cat, you'll get an error. But if we do con plus cat, you'll get the proper result. So you have to use the plus sign when dealing with a variable. This also works. So you can, if you have anywhere you have a variable, you have to use the plus sign. So if you have a variable plus a string, like without a variable, so concatenate, this works. But without this plus, it won't work. All right, so now we'll demonstrate how to replace a character in the string. So let's start over. We can just leave that. Okay, so let's say declare a new variable called word, and then we're going to say Ford. And then we're going to say word, so we're going to assign the following value. So we're going to say L plus word from the first index all the way to the end, or index 1 all the way to the end. What we did here is create a new string which is concatenated version of the specified character and other unchanged characters. So what's going to happen is going to copy ORD, it's going to concatenate L with ORD. So we're going to print, and then we're going to say word. And there we get Lord. So those are the basic string manipulation techniques we have in Python, and that pretty much concludes this tutorial.